if you can repeat your question, which was about the evolutionary something about the...
Yeah, well, I'll repeat the question. The question was, in regards to modern humans, I'd like some insight on, are we foreign to this planet? As in, evolution, I think, only works to a certain degree, but you had primates, you've got modern humans, and you've got what happened in between.
Right.
Obviously, you've got also prehistoric humans that seem to coexist with the modern humans.
Indeed.
And then phase away, as well as primates, apes.
Yeah.
So you had one split into three almost.
Indeed.
So I was just thinking, there's almost like it's a hybrid type thing happening where maybe there was the half human, half alien, which was the prehistoric man, and maybe we are the full alien. So what do you think?
I think that the question of the alien DNA intervention is a very strong one in many theories. And the only question now is, what exact aliens, where are they from, who are they? The best bet is the Sirius connection, right? And that's the best bet. There seems to be evidence, let's say, for an overlooking of our whole history by aliens specifically from Sirius. And there's a lot of this connection with this in the UFO contactee mythos, the stories, the UFO events.
Yeah.
A prevailing theme is that the Space Brothers interbreeding with humanity, with the aliens from Sirius, and that humans maybe were taken away from Earth when the aliens in the distant past were here, and now they've been bred and changed, and now they're returning. So it means that there's different types of alien figures you encounter, and let's say in all the UFO reports.
Of course,
which is so vast, right?
Of course.
But that explains it's actually more realistic that there would be a wide variety.
Of course, there wouldn't be one type of
because
alien.
we got to remember that the standard gray alien is nothing more than a mask worn by the dwarves, or whoever. They're appearing to me as the dwarves. Exactly. That could be a mask. They could have a mask and then have a mask of a dwarf underneath that mask.
Exactly,
and then the real mask,
and it could even be the gray alien again.
Right, and you never know. You never know. But there's reports of these humanoid aliens, Nordic-looking, tall, white. Some have like the third eye.
Yeah.
The symbol of Sirius is the third eye, or the all-seeing eye, right? And but you look at like the ancient humanity, many different species of Homo so-and-so, right? One of which we know is Cro-Magnon man.
Yeah.
One as Neanderthal, right? And Homo sapiens are just one.
Exactly.
And the people we are today, all the people we are today, really, are a result of one experimental batch that emerged from the Africa Near East area. And now the only question is, where did this batch get its specific culturing?
Exactly.
And that's where the alien intervention theory comes in. And it's in my plot level that I've devised, based on my research, it's the space gods who are actually us from the distant future, working in collaboration with the aliens, right? And because the space gods, remember, are just going to appear in the past, create, and then go off into the galaxy to do their big mission, right? So they create humanity, but the Sirius aliens are the ones who actually are the guides and the ones overlooking humanity. Of
course.
Right? And they're actually, I think, beyond time in a way that makes them, all of our histories like happening at once.
Of course.
So they're ideally positioned to just be puppeteering us at all these different points in time. But the key about our time, and this is part of the UFO confrontation, why is the goddess forces in collaboration with the human conspirators and these other beings, dwarves, whoever, alien, humans, hybrids, why are they attacking our consciousness now in the last 100 years? Shocking us awake for the 2012 flyby of the space gods. That's my theory, of course. No matter what the real answer is, it's constructed in the same way I constructed my theory.
Yeah.
So if I'm wrong, it's just in the details.
Of course.
Right?
But back to my point, obviously we haven't simply evolved naturally off this earth.
No, there's nothing to explain where human culture comes from.
Oh, your culture,
and because
I'm talking about literally human DNA, human as a species.
Well, that's another point as well.
That's what I mean.
Okay, the idea that the Earth itself has had periodic extinctions, right? And it all goes back to the cycle of different strains of life forms giving a chance to live and then being exterminated. Perhaps by alien intervention. Perhaps my theory, the dinosaurs evolved in a savage, brutal consciousness that didn't serve the planetary needs, so they were smacked down by the, maybe the Earth appeals to the policemen of the galaxy, the Orion beings of light, whoever, right? Not the Sirius aliens. The Sirius aliens are the five-dimensional, all-seeing eye beings that are interbreeding with humanity, right? But the Orion beings of light, who appear as the angels in religion, and who have been interfering with our history, appearing to people like Muhammad, or whoever, right? Appearing to the Jewish patriarchs. And the idea is that the Orion beings of light are like these order policemen, serving the light. They are beings of light, literally.
Yeah.
So when you see them, that you have you react to them. It's, in other words, if a being appears to you and it's made completely of light and it looks specifically anatomically angelic, what are you going to think? You're going to refer to all this cultural programming that these very beings have slipped into our history about them being the good messengers of the order, right? Why? Because they want us to serve the order, which is only half of the picture, in my opinion. The Sirius aliens are both dark and light, you see.
Yeah.
The other extreme, of course, now is the dark, satanic, chaotic elder god forces that want to enslave us. They were partnered up with the draconian dinosaur humanoids, whoever they might have been, velociraptor characters instead of humanoids like you and I. Their version of us would have been like the smaller scale, deadly, like in Jurassic Park, those velociraptors. And imagine those beings, and they don't have technology like we do, which is why they failed. They couldn't get off the planet. That's another dangerous way to get extinct, is to go down a path where you're not going to be able to serve the planet's need to expand. All right? But they might be dark forces collaborate with the reptilian, and that's why in a lot of the modern UFO plot level it's being sold. It's about these reptilian shapeshifter controllers working with the evil Illuminati, right? That's all that version of the plot. Then there's the beings of light, and then in between that, hidden and puppeteering humanity as it walks the path between these opposing forces are the Sirius beings, in my breakdown. That's supported by all. If you want to do all, don't take my word for it. If you want to do all the research in the occult interventions of history, if you want to look at the astronomical alignments that point to the specific constellations that these alien beings are associated with. So, for example, in the Great Pyramid, the beings of light, Orion, is the order, right? And
it's Dave.
It's Dave, huh?
Where are you?
Dun, dun, dun.
Where are you? Why? You're so full of shit. Mate, I heard women in the background before, mate. You were somewhere else, weren't you? Well, hurry up. So.
Anyway, so, like, for example, in the Great Pyramid, and in the
That was my next question. Who made the pyramids?
Yeah, and, well, the pyramids are made by human conspirators, Masons, Freemasons, the hidden under the rose secret societies, who are, again, being constantly puppeteered by the Sirius
But they must have had some help. How could they have done it so... We couldn't even do it now.
There's the basic theory is that in the Atlantean era, humans developed mental powers as they should be developed, and not in this stunted, burned out way that we are.
So how did that happen?
So one of the basic powers that the human mind has if you have it all developed, if you're using close to 100% of your brain like the Atlanteans would have been. Imagine what a human would be, a superhuman would be, if he was using 100% of his brain.
We use what, 15, 20?
Yeah, at best. So the Atlanteans to us can't help but appear to be dazzling space brothers.
So what gifts do you think they have?
Like the ability to levitate objects using song, singing, and using vibration, right? And if you think about it, it's the only explanation for the monuments, and not only that, it's the explanation given by the people who actually built it. A lot of for example, at Stonehenge and a lot of these other monuments, they say the Druid wizards sang the stones into place, right? Or there are temples, right, that there's no way that we can build them today, right? With our big cranes and using the gravity-based lifting. We can't do it today, so how did they do it? It must have been
some other form of...
The only way is that maybe by singing this song psychically, you permeate the stone and the vibration.
You vibrate the airways, which...
And the stone actually becomes lighter. Mass is converted somehow using the vibration.
Or the literal waves between the stone and the ground.
Right, there's something about it.
Set up.
Indeed, because you're not actually sitting on the chair, right? There's always one or two atoms of pure empty space between you and the chair.
So if you can,
right? So maybe by singing the song, you
get under that.
You pump up that space like a balloon, let's say, psychically. And so there's ways to, I think, because we can even articulate it in that fashion, it makes sense. Therefore, I think we have to deduce that it's possible and probable for the Atlantean civilization, which was at its height before the big flood 13,000 years ago, right? And that was my point about what I was talking about, the dwarves. They found a dwarf civilization off the coast of Australia. Really? And today I heard on this, get this weird classics radio, 105 something, classics radio. They have, classical music, but they also have odd esoteric interviews. One of them was with the guy who recently discovered the hobbits of, he called it the hobbits of New Zealand, the real hobbits, right? They were between New Zealand and Australia, I think, an island that has this whole civilization, prehistoric, 13,000 years of dwarf-like, hobbit-like characters. Exactly like the characters I'm interacting with now, right? And they had a whole civilization that had a whole tool-making level up to Stone Age man's level, and they are dated to 13,000 years ago where they were inexplicably wiped out. Right. So you put that together, that is pretty strong, given the whole, because when I had already, been delivered the message about this discovery recently when it was made, but this guy was the guy who discovered it. He gave a big explanation. Actually, it's odd you asked this question, because earlier today he was talking about how different strains of humanity are like different branches on the tree, and no one is any more or less valid than the others, but it seems that he called it a mysterious intervention, had helped our branch along. And that's why we triumphed over Cro-Magnon man.
And over everything else.
Everything else, right. So and he dates the intervention to about 30,000 years ago, which is just about when the space god arrival happens with the Sirius intervention, right? And so then that's when they take a laboratory of humans in the Garden of Eden formula in Africa and Near East areas, right? And then that just grows out from there.
Of course.
And that's why Atlantis is the first big super civilization, because it grows out from that whole radius towards the west. And then what happens is the Lemurian civilization in the Pacific is more based on mobile, like a seafaring civilization. And that's the limit of their technology. It's very primitive and almost medieval at best. And then the Atlanteans are the ones that develop space travel. And now we have to assume that the Atlanteans, at the height, they had at least 3,000 years of being on the top.
I just had a... Sorry.
What?
Just had a thought pushed into my mind.
Pushed into the mind by puppeteers unknown.
Listen to this, right?
Uh-huh.
What about if the Atlanteans, or whoever they are, left this planet, or some of them, they were wiped out, the remainders, and they're the ones who are trying to who are puppeteering us to get back. They're trying to rebuild what they lost.
Well, you're exactly right. And that's exactly what I had
already...
trying
to get us back to that level.
It's interesting because I had already articulated that myself in a previous recording I did just a couple days ago.
Really?
And I was independently onto that because if you look at it, the idea that the Atlanteans developed a spacefaring civilization to at least, let's say, competence on a solar system level.
Yeah.
So they were on the moons of Jupiter and Saturn, and they had all kinds of colony experimental places, and they had all kinds of wacky super space age stuff going on, including Mars. So when Atlantis and Lemuria go to war and it's destroyed on Earth, Mars, I think, maybe it's hit, but it continues. Maybe the underground bases survive. Who knows? Who knows what happened? We have no way of knowing, right?
But, yeah.
It's all competing plot levels, but the end result is the same. That there would have to be, realistically, if you assume all that was occurring, then there would have to be a small group of Atlantean survivors
Exactly.
who would be able to, in the solar system somewhere, survive until Earth would have the ability to give them what they would want. To,
Exactly.
And so that's what they would return. Because if you now listen to this is so key. In the 1950s, after Roswell and all this other stuff, there was a wave of what's called the Contactee movement in, let's say, all happening in California, Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, where people in the desert would meet these people in UFOs who would come down in a UFO, and they get out and they appear to be human, just wearing dazzling clothes, kind of weird, talking strangely, but human, right? And they would claim to be from Venus, Mars, and from the moons of Jupiter and Titan, right? And then they would disappear, right? And it's written off as absurd because we assume humans, we're the humans, so we're not on there. Therefore, there's no way we could be
exactly. But they forget we were here a long time
right,
ago.
And so
we got wiped out at the point, and then we started again.
The thing is, some people who denounce the contactee stories, which are pretty reliable. Joe Blow farmer driving through the desert has no reason to make up an elaborate Venusian in his spaceship, right? And so the idea is that people who would normally embrace esoteric or outer space theology dismiss because they're looking for the gray alien. Exactly. They're looking for beings of Planet X.
This elaborate
right, and so they can't
live up to. So
even if they believe Atlantis happened, they think it's all just seafaring, super civilization. But they don't put in the space age equation. But we're at that level, so why wouldn't they be? And if they did
if they were at their top,
and if they were nurtured
from
the beginning,
years.
right? And if they were on top, we have to assume all that stuff's in play.
If they,
and now this explains why they would have to fake the moon landing footage. By the way, what did they really find?
Exactly.
What did the Russians find when they got into orbit first?
Exactly.
Right.
It all ties in.
It does all tie in.
That's why I don't know why I just thought of that though. That's strange.
You're intuitively wired to receive.
No, but it literally popped up. It didn't. While you were talking, it was like, hang on. And I actually saw it. I saw the war beginning. I saw two things. One, there was already, what do we call them? Atlanteans, whatever, in space doing their experiments.
Right.
They already had stations everywhere.
Right.
Then there was ones who escaped on purpose, knowing that they were going to get raped up the ass.
Right, exactly.
Through this war.
So they had to tuck away their own whatever
right,
they could
so
save,
they
right?
took their smart guys and they pissed off, basically.
Right.
And then you think, well, that makes sense for them to be the UFOs.
Indeed. And also working with the Dwarfs.
Exactly.
Right? And that's why Nordic tall aliens are appearing with short gray aliens. How does that make sense?
Because they were all from here to begin with.
And it would make sense why they want our women.
Exactly.
In the abduction scenarios,
how we can be hybridly bred,
right?
Because
we can't,
species shouldn't be able to interbreed,
right? But you can interbreed with humans,
dogs.
right? Yeah.
How would you breed with a humanoid creature from a whole other planet?
Indeed, it's hot, because that is
so.
And
all these solar space observations and. People who are pushing us in directions are probably us from them. Who are a hell of a lot more advanced, who are wanting to get us back to that level.
Right, and that's why the Space Brothers are concerned about our abuse of nuclear energy.
Exactly.
Right? That's what. So the Venusians that were appearing, right, were very concerned with warning humanity about the dangers of nuclear power. Why? Because they blew themselves up.
Exactly. And they don't even want to repeat history.
Right.
They probably hope to come back here.
And they don't want us to repeat their mistake.
And they don't want us to do the same thing.
And so that's why even in there's in a lot of these UFO contactee mythos, there's this kind of fascist theology that the UFO Space Brothers are going to dispense with our government and take it all over. It's part of the New World Order fears, right? But maybe they're from their point of view, from the Space Brothers' point of view, said they are the space. That's right. They are the Space Brothers. Exactly. Right? That's who they are, and that's why they specifically gave that name for themselves when they appeared in these contactee waves in the 1950s,
Where
right?
your brother
And it was
from
all
space.
very specific too. They haven't appeared since. They showed up first after humanity had the first obsessions with the UFOs, Roswell, whatever. Then, and we mastered the nuclear bomb. Then, that's when these space brothers show up. When we start the nuclear testing. That why are they showing up in the Southwest United States? Because that's where most of the nuclear testing was happening.
Exactly.
They're very concerned.
Exactly.
Right?
Why
And
would
so-
they be concerned if they didn't have an interest in our planet? Or in our, if they weren't our brothers?
Yeah, indeed.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, indeed. So they,
Now-
they call themselves the Space Brothers because they are our brothers, literally.
Living
That
in
is
space.
correct.
Yes.
They are our brothers from space. The space is just the solar
residing
system.
in space.
The solar system,
But from-
right?
And they, who knows, they would probably put on the grey mask suits because we're not prepared to accept that it's us.
Right, because we want to think that we created our civilization.
Exactly.
You see, I'm putting this all in my book, and when I put it all together like this, people are going to go, "Oh, of course."
Yeah, makes
It
sense.
all has to fit together, right?
It does, though.
Because it explains. See, the thing is, you know the explanation is correct when it explains all the data without rejecting any of it.
Yeah.
Because there are no UFO theories that explain what the contactee of the 1950 movement was about.
Mm-hmm.
The Venusians and Martians and people from Europa.
And it makes
right?
perfect sense that they could be from all those different places at once
Yeah.
because they are. It's just like I'm American, you're Australian, you're
Right.
German. These guys, some of them
Indeed.
settled in Venus, some of them settled in Mars.
Indeed.
Obviously, in the capacity that we don't understand, because they obviously, like you said, in an underground, maybe they've got ways where they can survive in these situations. Obviously,
Right.
if they were at the top for 3,000 years,
Right.
look what we've done in 100, because that's all the
Indeed.
time we've been really...
And they started from the top
exactly.
with the leftovers of space gods
So
left
it's almost
behind.
like 3,000 years from now will be where they were back then,
Yeah, indeed.
and then add another 3,000 years, and that's where they are at the end of that.
Right,
And
yes,
then add
yes.
another 15,000 years since then.
Yeah.
They're about 26,000 years technological
Yeah.
ahead of us.
And that's also with obviously a development of the mind as well.
And look what we've done
Right.
since the 70s.
Indeed.
In 30 years, we have, technology-wise, what have we grown? A million percent?
Right. And so what is the
So what
what's
happens over 25,000 years if it's the same exponential rate?
And it's so interesting too. I love this. Getting back to these guys, the Space Brothers, they have to be very careful because I bet they have very limited resources right now. Right.
Of course.
And you know how perilous the whole space race thing. You lose your oxygen backup supply, you're fucked. So how many different things they had to overcome. So they have to be very careful about how they interact with humanity. And you know what? I bet that they have telepathic powers, and they are actually the people who are behind the contactees of the occult movement.
Exactly.
Way back in the 1800s, that kind of set up the same type of New Age mindset that then embraced the UFO contactees.
Exactly.
Because they said they were the ascended masters, the brothers looking out for humanity, right? And they claim to be in the hollow earth or wherever, right? Maybe they are.
There they are.
Right?
But it's interesting, isn't it?
But it gets very exciting for me when it starts to click together and more data becomes clear. Because that is big, I'll tell you. Because there are so many reports from the 1950s of that contactee thing, and nobody has an explanation. We
just figured it out.
We did just figure it out.
In the space of the last 20 minutes.
Because literally there are at least 500 reliable reports from all over the U.S.
There you go. We've done what they couldn't figure out in the last 50 years.
And exactly, because they can't put it into context.
We're just putting the missing link of what it all means to a certain extent.
Indeed, the Space Brothers are our brothers in space.
They're the ones who left it.
And Rob, nice question. And it's interesting now because they represent another branch of humanity, right? In the same way that we are, when the space gods and the aliens from Sirius initially interfered with humans, 26,000 years ago and made the first altered branch that then became the Atlanteans, then was broken, and then had to grow again and now became us, right? when it was broken, another branch that's not us survived and continued to grow, and now has grown very weakly into a very smaller, but I bet because it's smaller and it's so ancient, it has such lineage, it's so powerful. And so these guys are powerful players, and they must be behind many of the occult and UFO movements, and they must be testing and preparing. And there's evidence for what a lot of UFO investigators could call the manipulators, guys who are manipulating not only the UFO phenomenon, but the belief in the phenomenon, right? Mysterious characters who appear, offer miraculous aid to UFO groups, or lead them astray, right? Or all these different manipulations of these different movements, and it's almost like playing the human...
The only thing it all comes back to, though, is 2 or 3 reasons. 2 questions I have. 1, how does it link up with the whole Illuminati and secret society who are trying to manipulate us in different ways to control whatever they want to do, whether it's to control the world or they have whatever their agenda is? How does that link back to this?
Right.
And 2, why? Why go to all this trouble? Why not just come back? We'll get over it.
Well, here's the thing, right? The Illuminati question.
How does that
when you say Illuminati, you're talking about, first of all, 2 different groups.
Yeah,
both of them claim
I'm
to be
generalizing.
the Illuminati, right? So, one of the groups who are the Illuminati...
What is their goal? What are they really trying to do? What's the point of it all? They're going to drop dead in 20 years, and they're all... You know what I'm saying? They're obviously playing their part for a reason, because at the end of the day, they're personally not going to live to see their results.
But here's the point. Because of the 2012 event...
All has to relate to that, then.
It does all relate to that. That is the key moment.
Because without that, what is the point of any of this?
Right, exactly.
What are they getting at?
That is the key
moment.
moment.
Are they doing this?
And the thing is, it's in the calendar conspiracies. It's in everything's been predetermined and preset to count down to that one point. So the Illuminati on one level have existed solely to babysit humanity to this point, right? Preparing. So part of the Illuminati are being puppeteered by the Sirius intelligence, right?
If there is a Sirius intelligence.
Whoever that intelligence is.
What about if that's the Atlanteans we were talking about?
Well, no, the Sirius intelligence, which is behind all the occult groups in the over a big view of history, okay, one point or another, it all links back to Sirius. It would be the authority babysitting the Earth, per se. Once humans leave the Earth, the Sirius intelligence isn't involved. The humans are more on their own. So the Atlanteans, the Atlanteans who become the Space Brothers, break away from the Sirius intelligence.
The Sirius have no influence on them.
Right. They break away from all things having to do with Earth. 2012 means nothing to them on a bigger picture for them. I think what they're just trying to do is make a gambit for Earth now. So because they're trying to get a foothold back on Earth, they have to use the 2012 plot line.
Have you questioned...
Because we believe it, not because they really care about it.
Have you questioned what's the big deal with Earth? And how this one planet seems to be the center of a galactic plot?
It is a center because it has, I think...
Is it because it really is the only livable planet?
No, that's not it, but...
Then why? Why? Who cares about Earth? Why not just go elsewhere? Why not blow it up and look somewhere else? Why have a global plot that only relates to our planet and that's it? In the scheme of things, it's pretty significant.
It must be, and the fact that we haven't been wiped out proves that this is true, statistically.
Statistically, we should.
It must be that Earth is protected for only one reason. The only thing Earth as a planet could contribute to the galactic cause would be a specific